Hi, this is just a quick video about dysregulation and emotional regulation. Feel free to comment. And what I was going to say actually as well, if you've got PTSD or CPTSD, or you're diagnosed with something else on top of that or something different, then you may find maintaining emotional regulation even more tricky. I know I do, have done. So what can we do when we feel that we're losing emotional regulation? You'll probably feel it in your body first. If you're losing regulation of your emotions, you might feel, fired up. You might feel angry. You might feel anxious. You might feel all sorts of physical sensations. And it's easy, I know this from my own experience, to get pulled into that and to lose control. So what can we do when we feel we're losing control, as in losing emotional regulation? And that's if we've been triggered by somebody, we've allowed ourselves to be triggered by somebody, not even necessarily triggered, but just slightly upset by somebody, or we've had a flashback, or we've seen an injustice, or could be any reason that's allowed us to begin to lose that emotional regulation. So what are the ways we can try and get that emotional regulation back? One thing I try and do now is you could visualize your emotional regulation as a plane taking off, or if you don't like flying, you might want to visualize a balloon taking off, and you can actually imagine yourself trying to pull that balloon or that airplane or whatever it might be that's gone into the sky, pull it back down to earth. Because what we need to do really, and I don't know everything, but I do know a lot about this because I've suffered from it myself quite a lot, and I still do, is when we're losing that control, we're becoming ungrounded. That might sound obvious. What we need to do is ground ourselves back into our body. Imagine yourself maybe, your feet sinking into the earth. Really try and ground yourself, pull yourself back in, pull yourself back down to the ground, down to earth, within your body. And you might want to visualize that. So you might want to visualize yourself pulling the airplane back down, the balloon back down, whatever it might be. But what you do want to probably do is imagine yourself fully in your body, grounded in the earth. You might try and imagine yourself, your feet really into the earth. Because when we're becoming dysregulated, we're losing control, but we're losing that groundedness feeling. I hope this makes sense. I know that for a fact. The other way to get rid of emotions that we can't easily control or we don't want is physical exercise and activity, but that's not always possible at the time. And that can be quite frustrating because sometimes if I'm getting upset or triggered, I really, really want to get rid of that feeling through physical exercise. So you might want to say to yourself, well, I can't physically exercise at this moment, but when this interaction with this person or whatever it is finished, I can do it later. So look down the time tunnel and think, I'll do that later and I'll get rid of these feelings later. Another thing you can do, not necessarily at the same time, but soon after the interaction that's making you feel emotionally dysregulated, is write down your thoughts and feelings. Writing, don't think too much about what you're writing, just see what comes out. So writing therapy. Again, you might not be able to do that at the time or straight afterwards, but you might be able to set aside some time later. You might also be able to set aside some time later, hopefully half an hour, if you're lucky, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, depends how much time you've got, even if it's 5 minutes, where you say to yourself, I'm going to have at least 5 minutes if I can, where I have anxious time, I have worry time, I have angry time, and I'm going to get rid of that in that time. So you might want to set aside an amount of time every day where you can get rid of those feelings. The other thing, not always possible, but if it's possible. So if you find yourself worrying a lot in the day, think, no, I'm not worrying now because I have my designated worry time. That might even sound a bit silly, but it's quite useful for somebody that's got high anxiety because you can set aside a time and even diarise it if you need to, or set an alarm. That's when I'm going to do it. I'm going to think about that later. I'm not going to worry about that now. I'm not going to get triggered. I've set aside a time and I'm going to go through all this in my mind later on. The other thing that's really good, and most people know this, is meditating. And the problem is most people don't have much time. But even if you can do 5 or 10 minutes most days, meditating, clear that mind down, that's really good. The more you meditate, and I need to do more of this as well, the more you'll be able to handle things. I know this for a fact because the more I've done it, the better I've felt. But like anything, it takes dedication and finding the time. And even if you've only got 5 minutes, and there'll be days when you just don't have time. And I think it's okay to say, I haven't failed today just because I haven't had time to do the worry 10 minutes or the meditating, or I haven't failed today because I've lost my temper, because I can always try again and you can always try again tomorrow. So the other thing here I'm trying to say is don't beat yourself up mentally and emotionally because you feel like you haven't dealt with things effectively today, because there's always tomorrow and there's always chance to improve. And of course, you don't need to do any of this. This is just my thoughts and my advice, I suppose. My thoughts you can either take or leave. I'm just trying to give some thoughts out really of my own, based on my own experiences, and not just my own but other people's. I listen to lots of other videos as well. I listen to lots of people. I do this based on my own training, therapy training, and my own life experience, and I feel that what I say is probably quite useful, but it's up to you whether you listen to it or not. And you might have other ideas of how to get rid of anxiety, depression, anger, and how to deal with your triggers. But like I said, imagining yourself being grounded into the earth, grounding yourself back into your body, imagining yourself pulling that anxiety, anger, whatever it might be, back down from the sky. Writing therapy, exercise, meditation, setting aside a certain time where you do the worry, you do the anger, you know, on your own. You do the exercise at a designated time later in the day if possible. That's also another idea. And if anybody can think of anything else that's really helpful for dealing with triggers, negative emotions and emotional dysregulation, then feel free to write something here, because at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons we're here on planet Earth is to help each other and give our thoughts that might be helpful when we can, entertain when we can, help when we can. But like anything, there has to be an energy exchange. So when we give, we expect to have something back sometimes. Otherwise, we can end up getting drained. And I know that because I've done a lot of things for free over my time. Lots of free healing, lots of free readings, lots of free advice. And if we keep doing stuff all the time like that and we never get anything back, that can get quite draining. So if you're quite empathetic like me, you need to watch that as well, that you don't let your energy get too drained by give. There has to be a bit of... I'm not saying we expect anything from anybody particularly, but there has to be a bit of give and take with the energy exchanges as well. So that's something else to be mindful about. Most people know about that. Until next time.